The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Monday, May 20th, and today is National Quiche Lorraine Day. It is also National SugarBee Apple Day, National Rescue Dog Day, all you people rescuing all these animals, National Pick Strawberries Day for strawberry shortcake. Oh, Rico, you're going to love this. It's also National Streaming Day. And, of course, it wouldn't be my day without National Be a Millionaire Day today. Yes. Streaming. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above on your screen to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. But kicking it off first today, that's right, we have the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte. Oh, yeah. Hold on. I'm sorry. I want to give a big thank you first. I'm sorry before I get into you, Rico. My bad. I do want to give a big thank you to a couple of people. We want to give a big thank you to Adam. We moved into our new location yesterday, and so Adam was a big help yesterday getting everything set up, as well as my buddy Daniel Hernandez, and so we want to thank them, and also thank Catalyst for allowing us to come in and inhabit the space. So thank you all so much, and now we're going to move right on into the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte. There we go, Rico, and you got applause.
I know, man.
Look at that.
I love the applause, man.
Get it, bro.
Big love, and thank you for everybody who joined us in our live studio recording today.
Yes.
Big shout out to Catalyst. Big shout out to everybody. It's all weed for the people.
Yes.
And speaking of weed for the people, let's talk about June. June is right around the corner. And for everybody who is not living in California, you know what that means. It's music festival season. And I say outside of California, of course, because technically we can and do have music festivals year-round, thanks to the whole absence of winter thing. But I digress. Since festival season is upon us, and as High Times Keegan Williams put it, music lovers far and wide are preparing for a summer full of multi-day events featuring some of their favorite artists, DJs, along with plenty of dancing. And for many, the festival experience also involves consuming a variety of drugs.
Love drugs.
Amp up their experience.
Yeah.
This year's drug safety at music festival study conducted by a research firm, Inner Body. Jason's favorite.
Did you say in her body?
Whoa!
That's what it sounded like to me.
The H, there's no H in there, Jason.
It sounded like in her body, Rico. Just saying.
You would.
That's what I heard.
So conducted by research firm Inner Body sheds additional light on the habits and plans of festival goers this year while addressing some of the best ways for folks to stay safe should they decide to consume substances at these events. The study uses survey data from 900 people and suggests that about 87% of festival attendees plan to take drugs. 10 increase from last year's figure. The study focuses on a variety of topics surrounding drug use at music festivals, beginning with the most popular substances that festival goers plan to use during their upcoming season. Williams points out that alcohol is always number one, but the study did not include it and focused on everything else. That said, cannabis takes the top slot by far, with 65.3% of festival goers saying that they will be consuming cannabis. Authors note that the widespread legalization of recreational cannabis across the U.S. may make cannabis a less risky option for attendees. At 46.5%, cocaine was the second most popular choice, followed by psychedelics, 26.1%, MDMA, 19.4%, ketamine, 19.3%, amphetamines, 13.7%, opioids, 12.1%, benzodiazepines at 10.1%, synthetic drugs like bath salts, spice. Did not think that those were still a big draw, but they're still right around 10%. Hallucinogens like salvia or peyote, 6.1%, and inhalants, whippets, are at 6%. Plans to use cocaine are up from last year's numbers, though there was a 2% drop in the number of people who plan on using opioids, which authors noted as surprising, given the continued opioid overdose epidemic, though still, quote unquote, encouraging. The study found that rock, hip hop, and EDM are the genres most likely to have audience members under the influence of drugs, with Wisconsin's Rockfest claiming the top slot as the festival with the most anticipated drug use, according to survey participants. The week-long Burning Man Festival, held in Nevada's Black Rock Desert, took the second slot, while Coachella was third place for most anticipated drug use. Williams then dove into the study's revelations about drug concealment, consumption, and testing behaviors. In this section, most of the results were a bit more surprising. Some of the results were a bit more surprising, like the fact that only 32.6% of people bring their own drugs with them to the event, while the remaining 67.4% buy them at the festival. So many drugs being laced with fentanyl and all different other kinds of bullshit these days, I would not be taking those kinds of risks. But I guess my old ass is in the minority here. I don't know. I'm not buying any drugs from anybody at a festival.
Yes, Rico, you are a minority.
Oh, man. Shots fired.
Wow. Global majority,
Shots fired.
I'd say so, Yarrow. In a global sense of things, white people are the minority.
You're a globalist? Is that what you're saying?
So last year's results found that 46% of people plan to bring their own drugs to the events, with millennials as the most likely generation to bring drugs at the venue, buy drugs at the venue rather than purchasing them beforehand. When it came to drug testing, a majority of people, 80.3%, test their drugs before the event or festival, an increase from last year's approximately 67% figure. So at least there's that. The authors of the study noted that this increase in testing could be due to more awareness surrounding the U.S. opioid crisis and public education efforts that have taken place. But while the data is encouraging, it still reflects the reality that 20% of festival goers could be taking potential dangerous drugs at concerts. Concealing drugs in backpacks and pockets are the most common choices, and researchers also found that attendees tend to take drugs in one of three places with a fairly balanced distribution: the restroom, 29%, with the crowd, 31%, and outside the festival gates, 33%. Survey data also found that drug use tended to lead festival goers to engage in riskier behavior at events, with 66% of both Gen Z and millennial respondents reporting that they had done so while attending festivals under the influence. So engaging in sex with a stranger was one of the most prevalent examples, most prominent among millennials, while 1 in every 4 millennials also reported, quote unquote, driving dangerously after the festival ended. So, I mean, that might be the saddest part of the whole study for me. Boomers fucked up the whole housing market and retirement funding situation, and now data is trending towards us millennials becoming the last generation to own and own our own cars. Very promising future ahead of us in this great nation, I'll tell you that much. I'm not the biggest fan of music festivals. I prefer smaller venues and more intimate settings with superior acoustics and less chance of some kind of bullshit you've got no control over popping off. My wife, on the other hand, she grew up a festival baby with her father being a famous traveling musician, so it's something I'm inevitably stressed out about at least 2 to 3 times a year. I know everybody's situation is different, And I like studies like this because they keep me on top of at least what to look out for before shifting into super protector mode around my family and friends who choose the path of full ratchetness, because it is what it is. But hey, you can find links to the full study results at highat9news.com. And everybody going out there enjoying these festivals, man. Stay safe out there. Please, if you are part of the majority of drug consuming attendees, test your drugs before using them.
Yeah, because buyer beware.
Yes, and they can be found easily on Amazon or your local drugstore. Go get those drug testing kits, y'all. It'll save your life. Promise you. Multiple days long recovery is bad enough. Proper hydration and knowing exactly what you're putting into your body. These things are key to making sure that you and your friends get to make the same bad decisions again at the next one. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News. What about you guys? What do you guys think about this?
You know so, hey guys, just want to say real quick, dancesafe.org will send you free drug testing kit.
Dancesafe.org will send you free drug testing kits.
.org.
But then they have your address.
No, they're a harm reduction. They're a harm reduction business. They're not in the in telling on people.
Okay. They're not snitching.
They've been at raves. It's the late 90s, I believe. They've been at raves and since the late 90s.
There have been a lot of UCs at raves too.
Now too. A big shout out to Nick Bradley for saying that.
So you know what I think about this, Rico.
What's that?
So they talk about this study and how a majority of these millennial kids will be bringing their own drugs into the festival. And I have to, back in the days when I used to go to raves and stuff like that, we would go to the raves and we would buy drugs there. And I think a lot of this is because of technology and the speed at which drug dealers are able to sell their drugs now with the ability of the internet and mobile phones and everything. Because back in the day, you used to have to page somebody, bro, hang around at a payphone for people to call you back and all of that.
Oh yeah.
And yeah. So I think that's why more people are bringing drugs is just a offset of technology.
The study's saying that the majority are still buying
at the festival.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it said differently.
67% of people are still buying at there's no way if I don't know you before.
Right, exactly.
I ain't taking none of your shit.
Well, in all fairness, I knew all the people I was buying stuff from when I went to raves.
Yeah,
But all the people that bought stuff from me, I didn't know any of them.
Right. Yeah, I'm like, dude, there ain't no way I'm taking anybody's any strange person's drug. I don't care how cool you seem, how good you're of a dancer you are. Or I ain't touching your shit.
How good of a dancer?
I do not know you.
Oh man, you're funny, bro. You're funny.
That is also another space where mushrooms really are great because there's no fentanyl in mushrooms. Mushrooms are easy to see what they are, provided you're not throwing gummies down or something.
I'm just honestly encouraged to know that people are still having sex with strangers.
Oh yeah.
Millennials and older, man.
Yarrow's headed to the next rave, you guys. Let's go.
So full disclosure, I executive produced 18 raves in my 20s, and I had a lot of fun. And because I was on probation for most of that for my cannabis exploits, I ran a clean ship, and we made sure people didn't sell drugs in our events. And what I would tell
people that weren't part of the crew not selling drugs is what you mean. It's called
not at all,
New York.
Jason.
It's
not
like New York selective enforcement.
No. Let me finish. No. So what I would tell people is, look, if you're not sophisticated enough to get your whatever it is before you get to our event, then no, we are not going to create a place where you can just buy random street drugs. And I wasn't going to jeopardize going to prison just so someone else could get their little fizz on. The thing that we had to do at that point was we actually hired bands of roving medics to go through these events to make sure that people who didn't know their limits didn't flatline. I'm just super enthusiastic that we can kick off this Monday morning and that this next generation of munchkins is still smashing uglies in the porta potty. Good on you.
Yeah.
Well, they're not. Hey, but here's the thing. They're not. The younger, it says the kids, millennials are like the last generation that are making the bad decisions when it comes to sex and drunk and drugged driving.
I mean, all the risk factors have changed. It used to be that you could take drugs, act a fool, and the worst that would happen is your social standing would crumble because you did something really stupid. Now you take drugs, you die. It used to be that you could have freewheeling love, and it wasn't so much of a risk.
Did you say free willy?
Free wheeling, free whatever. Then AIDS came in. That kind of was a big buzzkill because before that, the worst the people would get is herpes in the hot tub.
Yep.
And so
Syphilis.
all of the stupid stuff that we could have done, like the risk factors have gotten higher and higher and higher. And fentanyl is no different. I think that there's a whole generation of kids that would have been able to do a bunch of stupid shit but for that. So I'm kind of going with Saint Germain on this one. Like, fungus might be the only safe thing to acquire.
Well, this is the thing is, there's a big thing going on right now in Vegas. EDC started yesterday, and that is just like a drug festival.
So I used to do production for Pasquale and was actually flown into Vegas at EDC to run a stage because of the work and the production chops from the events I did in San Francisco. Look, the problem with these big events is people forget to know where they're getting their things, test or not test, drink a ton of water, and the larger these events get, the more likely there's going to be something tragic. I've seen people airlifted in and out with helicopters.
I've seen that a few times.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think I might just stick with my Spotify playlist.
Fair enough.
Any final comments on this one, Jamie? You got any input on this one?
Well, growing up in Cowtown, Montana, we didn't have festivals or raves or any of that stuff, so I guess I had a boring childhood.
But you guys have fireflies, right?
Yeah, I guess not really, no.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sorry.
That's Texas and East.
Sorry.
We have cows and rivers.
So you guys went.
Cows are amazing, though. Cows are amazing.
Cow tipping.
Yeah, we did not go cow tipping. We didn't do that either. What we did, though, we drank a lot of alcohol. That's really what there was. We drank.
All
we
right.
played basketball. It was sports, work, alcohol.
Fair enough. And on that,
So I have to bow out on this one. I know nothing.
no worries. That's all good.
What Jamie is trying to say is that she paid substantial money to somebody to scrub the internet of that chapter of her life after she started to travel that included all of the skeletons. And she said to somebody, go to the dark web, take all the footprints out of my little closet. I don't want anybody to know about it.
Fair enough. And on that, we got to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was weird. Hey, you America. Do I look like Sean Connery? Good morning, America. Saman Razani coming to you live from sunny Los Angeles, California with the one and only highest host, Mr. Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast? You can find it on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. No excuses in 2024. If you haven't checked us out, check it out now. And also, check out what the Prophet's doing in 2024.
A million other things I'd rather infuse than.
All right. And I think are we back? Whoa, do we have a hookup? Oh, shit, there we go.
Remember Pura
now we're
Vida?
back.
Remember that company?
Now we're back, you guys. We're back.
So up next, he's known for smoking the best weed in the world and also for having more love, affection, and support for America's 45th president than
That's right.
Melania. Jason Beck.
45 and 47. The three-time champ is coming back, you guys. But nonetheless, man, wait till you hear about this, you guys. New Jersey senators approve a bill directing marijuana regulators to oversee intoxicating hemp products. Stores that look like dispensaries are setting up shop in towns across New Jersey, putting CBD lotion, Delta-8 gummies, and hemp products on their shelves without facing the same regulations and oversight as legal cannabis dispensaries. Now, lawmakers are weighing whether those retailers should be required to get certain licensing and if the state's Cannabis Regulatory Commission should oversee hemp products. A new bill would regulate the production and sale of intoxicating hemp products that include less than 0.5 milligrams of THC, the chemical that gets someone high, per serving. Under the bill, hemp products would only be sold in licensed dispensaries alongside cannabis products, and it would also amend the New Jersey Hemp Farming Act to set limits on how much THC can be sold in hemp products. A cap that some critics say is far too low. In a quote, "The main intent, I think we would all agree, is that there is a phenomenal amount of unregulated, unlicensed, untested cannabis products on gas station shelves, convenience store shelves, and they don't go through any regulated process. Teens have access to this, and this bill attempts to capture that to prevent that," said Scott Rutter of the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association. The bill calls for the Cannabis Agency to regulate the sale of all hemp and cannabis products and put new regulations in place for retailers. The Department of Agriculture would continue regulating the cultivation of hemp, and the Attorney General's office would enforce the law against those selling hemp items without a license. Similar to cannabis, a 2018 bill passed in Congress opened the door for smoke shops to legally sell hemp products like Delta 8, CBD, and CBN. No license is required to sell these products, and they aren't approved by federal or state agencies. They do not get customers high in the way that marijuana with Delta 9 THC does, but with little regulation and easy access, Delta 8 may be sold in high quantities to children, which led the Food and Drug Administration to issue a warning about the drug back in 2022. It noted more than 2,300 Delta 8 exposure cases were reported during the 14 months starting on January 1st of 2021, and symptoms of Delta 8 exposure can include dizziness, vomiting, difficulty walking, confusion, and difficulty breathing. The New Jersey bill advanced out of the Senate Judiciary Committee Thursday after nearly an hour of testimony by a 6-2 vote, with Republican Senator John Bramnick and Kristen Corrado voting no. While most people testifying Thursday were supportive of the bill's goal, they differed over the details. Brewery owners and liquor industry representatives opposed any move that would bar them from selling low-dose hemp drinks. Eric Orlando of the Brewers Guild of New Jersey suggested allowing alcohol licenses to also apply for a type cannabis license, allowing them to manufacture or sell hemp beverages. In a quote, "We're not opposed to regulating these products, but we think we should afford local manufacturers the ability to produce and sell these beverages," he said. Dispensaries have strict zoning and site approval plans and may not be prepared to store and sell these products, said Michael Halfcare, executive director of the Beer Wholesalers Association of New Jersey. And beverage distributors that have been in the game already have warehouses and refrigerators designed to carry them, he said. Half Acre believes there's a better marketplace for these drinks in liquor stores. He noted that in California, where THC drinks are sold in dispensaries, they account for less than 1% of sales. Well, that's because no one buys this crap, you guys. And hemp drinks should be regulated by the state's Division of Alcoholic Beverage Control, he added, and says, in quotes, "These products are packaged like beer. They're shipped, delivered, and stored like beer. They're intoxicating like beer and are marketed and sold in many other states like beer." I only know of one of them, but nonetheless. He also says, "There is no reason to treat them radically different here in New Jersey," Halfcare said. Cantrip CEO Adam Terry said he founded his cannabis-infused beverage company as an alternative to alcohol and for curious cannabis consumers. His product is available in several states that allow hemp sales, and he wants to bring it to New Jersey, but said that wouldn't be viable under the current legislation. He said in Minnesota, he worked with officials to allow adult THC beverages to be sold at liquor stores. And that's where they're getting all this stuff from, you guys. Hemp drinks pay an additional tax, bringing extra revenue into the state, he said. The bill as written is misaligned with industry and national best practices, he said. Cantrip agrees with the need to offer hemp-derived products to the adult population in New Jersey in a well-regulated, consistent, and safe manner, he said. And other critics said the bill's cap of 2.5 milligrams is so minuscule, most people won't even feel the effects. New Jersey's cannabis law currently limits drinks to 5 milligrams of THC, though very few, if any, cannabis drinks are available in dispensaries. In a quote, "We're talking about a 12-ounce can that might have 5 milligrams of THC. You'd have to drink 30 of those cans to equal what's in a joint," said Joe Grabanowski, owner of Serene Craft Beer Distributors. The bill still faces the Senate Budget Committee before heading to the Senate floor. And that is the conclusion of that story. And man, look at this. New Jersey's trying to be Minnesota, you guys. They're trying to take a page out of their hemp book and whatnot. And man, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. What do you think, Rico? Rico, are you there? Are you? Oh, okay, there you are.
I'm here.
Okay. What do you think about this? Yeah,
Rico is powerfully underwhelmed by your story, Jason.
I figured he was going to have something really smart to say because they're basically trying to turn New Jersey into Minnesota with this beverage bill.
I keep hearing all this buzz about. I'm really excited to someday contact that stuff because I keep hearing all this buzz about Minnesota's amazing beverages.
It's they're not amazing.
Yeah,
Matthew.
man. And beverages are on the rise, Jason.
Beverages are not on the rise, bro. All these people are doing is selling you fancy lipstick water. Okay, that's all that they're doing. All right.
You know what? And people like this fancy lipstick water, and it's a great way. It's a great entryway into cannabis is by these low potency drinks. Period. So they're attempting to regulate that.
Yeah, I mean,
we need a place to be.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Brandon, I think you're on mute, Brandon.
And less and less people are drinking alcohol. You don't want the effects of alcohol. Go to a low potency THC drink. It's a great alternative. Even though Jason Beck doesn't believe it's a real thing.
I've been saying this for years, years and years, that the form factor that people understand when they do something mind altering on a mass scale is beverage. That's people pop champagne, they open wine bottles, they drink beers. That is the way that people consume. So I think about my mom getting a blowtorch to do a dab. It's not going to happen. But a low dose THC drink is where her ability to overcome the fear and the stigma with a form factor that she understands, that she's comfortable with. And then the fact that you can accurately dose, where if you smoke a joint, it's hard to tell how high you're going to get, depending, if you're brand new. So with a dosed can of something that's 2.5 milligrams, that start small, go slow thing becomes a lot easier. And then, people are doing something they're comfortable with.
It's two totally different highs, though, Jamie. Two totally different highs from smoking and the beverage.
But we're not talking about somebody who's already used to getting high. We're talking about the cannabis.
Let me tell you something. So there's some interesting data on this, Jamie. I think you'll find this extremely interesting. So there's a study that came out, and it actually shows that brand new first-time patients, that is their first time going into a cannabis store, that if they purchase a pre-roll or a flower, they have a 60 to 90% chance of coming back to purchase again. And all the people that purchase gummies on their first time, they pretty much barely, only 10% of them return as patients.
Yeah, I can tell you from having run an edible company, there were a lot of people that would eat the whole bang chocolate bar, 100 milligrams, 240 milligrams, and they'd have a terrible time. But if you read the instructions,
I mean, who reads the instructions? I mean,
right.
I mean, dads across America.
I've seen a bunch of people doing retail and just also going into clubs and consumption lounges because I'm endlessly fascinated with the social scene around cannabis. I have to the second what Jamie said. What I'm seeing is people, especially people in the bigger cities who are going to a consumption lounge after work and they want to socialize, are so used to the alcohol beverage model that it just fits in with what they do. And it also, in buying several drinks, it supports the consumption lounges. The consumption lounges actually make more money because one of the problems the consumption lounge has, if 7 people come in and they smoke a joint and they sit there for an hour and a half, just made $10 to keep that whole booth busy. Whereas if those same people are running through multiple drinks, and then you're able to make money. And personally, it's more problem. The alcoholic beverage model is like really the only model to support any type of nightlife at all. Because of that, rent and business costs, et cetera, like you got to be just cranking out these $10 and $15 drinks one after the next.
And I don't like to agree. That's like definitely not my job on this show. Not my forte, but I am going to have to agree with Jamie. I'm going to have to agree with Matthew. Full disclosure, I'm doing some consulting now in the beverage space, but let's go back and rewind selector all the way to Julian Cohn coming from, what was it, InBev over to Constellation or Canopy Growth and the $3.2 billion that was invested to help continue to push this form factor or this idea that people can get cannabis in a can. You had Canacraft and Heineken doing their little collabs, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And the biggest problem has been the technology and the taste. And as those things get worked out, and we have can liner viable emulsion technology, and we have people who are actually making things that taste good instead of just like Huffle Duffle swept off the grow room floor, there's no way that this doesn't continue to pick up. And so the detractors continue to say that beverages are a single-digit percentage of what is sold in stores.
They are.
And that is not wrong. That is not wrong. But if we take a longer view, I just don't think there's a world in which it doesn't become a substantial percentage of the way in which people choose to consume cannabis. And Jason, you, my friend, are a dinosaur. Okay, now I'm with you. Okay, you're a Tyrannosaurus Rex and I'm a Stegosaurus or whatever. But imagine you're in a club. You are not going to go to the alleyway in the back to post up and smoke on a blunt if you can sit around and have no smoke, have no vape, and have no issues, have no cotton mouth, not have your clothes smell like it. Girls aren't going to want to have their hair smell like smoke. We are relics. We are bygone era.
What girls like.
Cannabis smoke doesn't persist over an hour or two in clothing or hair like cigarette smoke. The reason for cigarette smoke's persistence is that cigarettes are a majority of chemicals.
Yeah.
Cigarettes are only required to be like some small percentage, about 20% tobacco leaf.
So Matthew,
hold on one sec. All the rest is fill-in, which means like broccoli stalks, tobacco stalks, which are then chemically bleached, dyed, and perfumed, have nicotine added to somewhat resemble cigarettes. And so that's why even 3 days later you can smell cigarettes in your jacket and all that.
Matthew, when you say that cannabis smoke doesn't last in your hair but more than an hour, I look at you on the screen and I'm thinking, yeah, that's an I statement.
Oh, that's cute. I see what you did there, Yarrow. I did find it funny. I did find it funny, Yarrow.
And then there's the piece where you get nose blind, where I can't even smell it anymore. And you walk in somewhere and you're just loud, and then people looking, and you're like, "Do I smell like weed?" They're like, "Yeah, but it's probably all in my hair."
Exactly. The cologne I wear is extremely expensive and is actually the best cologne in the world because it comes from the best weed in the world. Yes. But we're gonna keep this train rolling. We're gonna roll right in. That's right, to Miss Jamie Pearson. Yes. She is the CEO of a European cannabis group called the New Holland Group. And she knows a thing or two about exporting stuff across countries. That's right, is none other than Miss Jamie Pearson.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be on High at Night News, and I'm bringing you another drink article because while I agree with you, Jason, drinks aren't the greatest thing to go get in a dispensary. And I think part of the other thing that Yarrow said about the problems with drinks, with the taste and all of that, is absolutely true. But I think the other issue is distribution. It's very expensive to move water around, and that is heavy. Right?
It is. Just ask any water company.
And that's why all of the Pepsi model is that they have bottling plants regionally, so they're not making beer in one place and shipping it on trucks and things. It's just too expensive. So the cannabis beverage lends itself to the beverage model. And then we talk about Canopy Growth. They didn't really, when Constellation Brands bought them, they didn't put a focus on beverage. They were still putting their focus on all kinds of other booths. But we'll figure out what happens after they, had the R&D of $3 billion. That's what we're going to chalk it up to, just R&D. They had to play around with all that money and figure out what worked. My article, the reason I picked it, it's about weed drinks setting up a turf war between alcohol and cannabis industries. And I feel like there's a lot of mixed information. There's some where we hear from places like Total Wine saying, this is the fastest growing segment we have in our store. So we know that there are alcohol people that are embracing it precisely because it's 2.5 milligrams, and precisely, I think, because the Gen X or Gen Zers coming up don't want to drink alcohol. They view it as poison. So this Cali Sober movement has taken over, and the whole dry January and all of these trends where our kids or my kids' age, they just aren't about it. They just don't want to drink alcohol. They're all into, eating clean and that proliferation of information on the internet. So here's what the article's saying. THC-infused drinks are popping up more often in the refrigerator section, and yes, they're legal. Why it matters? A loophole in the 2018 Farm Bill helped parlay the marijuana drinks market, and government regulators are catching on. Big Alcohol, which has gotten into the market as beer sales plummet, isn't totally pleased. The drinks on sale at cannabis stores, breweries, and alcohol retailers are commonly derived from hemp, which typically contains less than 0.3% of high-inducing ingredient THC. THC-infused drinks were inadvertently legalized through this bill, per Bloomberg, while marijuana-derived THC products face more strict federal regulation. Alcohol distributors and marijuana companies both want a lucrative stake in the market. State of play, internet searches for THC-laced drinks. I think it's weird that they use the word laced, and I think it's on purpose, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Internet searches for the THC-laced drinks have been at an all-time high in 2024 per Bloomberg. They've become so mainstream that Bon Appetit and Esquire have recommendation lists for a happy hour high. I just want to put on the record that Esquire's is all... Bon Appetit's all California cannabis-derived THC drinks, and Esquire's had the hemp drinks. Major retailer Total Wine offers a selection of THC drinks, often between 2.5 to 10 milligrams. The friction point, some states have started to regulate THC drinks, and the U.S. Cannabis Council called on Congress to more strictly regulate hemp products. Hemp legalization has created a national consumer market of untested and unregulated intoxicating products, a letter from the council to members of Congress said. Some companies that sell regulated marijuana feel their market share is unfairly at stake, Bloomberg reported. Meanwhile, alcohol distributors have lobbied to continue being allowed to make these drinks. THC drinks could provide a more intense and prolonged high than smoking or edibles, according to the dispensary Napa Cannabis Collective. The drinks offer precise dosing, not always the case with other forms of cannabis consumption. Their effects can kick in as quickly as 5 to 10 minutes. Yes, but clinical trials on the effects of THC are limited because of regulations on cannabis. Catch up quick, the 2018 Farm Bill authorized the production of hemp and removed it from the DEA's controlled substance list. The Biden administration has moved to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug. A proposal submitted to the Federal Register on Thursday launched the process to make it a Schedule III drug, or one with a moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence. So the turf war, which is interesting, isn't that alcohol doesn't want it, it's that alcohol wants it. They want those hemp-derived drinks, and the cannabis industry doesn't want the alcohol industry to have the hemp drinks. That's the turf war. I find that super interesting.
That is, I love this. I love this battle because this is exactly what the story in New Jersey was all about all these liquor bros saying, hey, you know what, we should be able to sell all these cannabis beverages, and since we're already set up for it, why should all these other people pay for all this infrastructure when we already have this infrastructure, and we should just add it to our portfolio?
I think they're right. I personally, as unpopular as it might be in the traditional cannabis industry, I would rather see my kids drinking a hemp THC infused drink than drinking any alcohol anytime.
I don't know about, I don't know about any of that. I'm not buying that one yet. I'm not buying
My
that one yet.
13-year-old tried to give me that argument like 2 Friday nights ago. He's like, Dad, alcohol is really bad for you. And even though he was politicking and it didn't work, I think this next generation does see alcohol through a different lens. I am very pro-alcohol because I live in an area that produces some of the best alcohol in the fucking world. Thank you very much, Russian River AVA. Throw up my gang signs. And so it's different. And I think that alcohol, part of the reason why alcohol beverage manufacturers and distributors want to participate is they're seeing some of their sales decline in certain markets. And so they're trying to figure out how they reinvent their relevancy and how they can participate and take advantage of their considerable marketing acumen and infrastructure and distribution that's already established. And so, I think there's a world where we can all play nice together. Hopefully we can get a tax structure that more resembles the alcohol model. And these beverages, look, for me, it's never going to be my go-to. But again, I think that we are a different generation, Jason. I think that two generations from now, it's going to be very different.
I'm not buying
Yarrow,
that.
if you could get a Napa wine or a Russian River Valley beautiful alcohol product that had no alcohol but was infused with THC but had that flavor and that complexity, you wouldn't want it?
I'd be all over that like a hummingbird on a feeder.
No, you wouldn't, bro. No, you wouldn't. If that was the case,
I'm with Jason on this. No way.
You're full of shit right there. I'm not buying that for a second. You'd be drinking O'Doul's all the time if that was the case.
But I will say, I like the alcohol in the alcohol.
But O'Doul's doesn't taste like a fucking IPA. If you really are about it, it's not about the effect. I don't know.
I don't drink beer at all. I think it all tastes like trash, personally.
Oh God, are you kidding? Beer's amazing. It's the fifth food group.
It's not. There's some high-end beers that are good, but like most beer is trash.
I haven't found a cannabis beer that's any good though. The cannabis.
I actually know of one. I'll turn you on to them. It is IPA. It's very good, and it actually tastes. I'll share it to you later, Jamie.
BUD-Weiser.
No, it's not. No.
Okay.
It would be closer to Modelo.
Just a whiteboard branding session.
Yeah, but
we're gonna do mushrooms and smoke weed.
Yeah, we're gonna keep this train rolling. We're gonna ride into commercial. We're gonna be right back.
The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
Right, you guys. Stop. What? Oh, hold on. Are we behind? Are we there? Oh, stop right now. Stop whatever you're doing, you guys. Make sure you hit that like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show will be up on the website a little after noon Pacific time today. Thank you so much. I'm Jason Beck, and this is Smoky Vanilla. And if you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to get a stretch and smoke with Smoky Vanilla.
Hi, I'm Smoky Vanilla. I have my bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and I'm a sports massage therapist and stretch coach. I focus mostly on individuals that are in sport with chronic pain or injury. I love to intuitively create and customize a session based on the individual that I'm working with. We'll go over a few postural assessments, work together to create a wellness journey based on the health history, past injuries, or anything still affecting you today. And we'll get you back on your feet right away with less pain.
We're about to stretch, and then we're gonna smoke, because we're gonna get on our stretch and smoke. If you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to come on down and get a stretch and smoke with none other than Smoky Vanilla. Oh, yes. And we're back. We are going to roll right on in. That's right. To Mr. Oh man, where did my thing go? Son of a bitch. We're going to roll right into Mr. Brandon Jones. He's joining us from the great state of Missouri, and he's the founder of Be Green Distribution. That's right, is none other than Mr. Brandon Jones. What? You're on mute, Brandon. Brandon, you're on mute. You got to unmute yourself, Brandon. You're on mute. You got to unmute yourself.
Hear him.
We hear him, Jay.
Oh, shit.
I hear him.
I don't. Okay. No, keep on going, Brandon. Keep on going. It's all good. Hey, Brandon, you got to be muted, bro. You have to be muted. Don't you? Or did? Is it something that you said in your settings? They're not. No one can hear you, Brandon. No one can hear you. What's going on? We don't hear you.
So we can hear him, but the feed can't hear him. We can see on YouTube that it says they can't hear him, but in Discord we can.
Yeah, no one's here. I'm not hearing him. I'm not hearing him at all.
I can hear him.
I can hear him.
Well, I understand that, but I can't hear him. So we're gonna roll. We're gonna roll while we figure out this situation. We're gonna roll right on into Mr. Mathieu St. Germain. He is the everlasting Count himself. That's right. Who's been running around across the country from Texas, the great red state of Texas, where he had a great time. That's right. And he's back with us in California today. That's right. Is none other than the Count himself, Mr. Mathieu St. Germain. I'm not hearing Mathieu St. Germain either. What the hell just happened?
And my screen isn't
I'm muted.
There you go. There you go. There we go. There's
Happy
Mathieu.
Monday, everybody.
Right.
Take two.
There we go.
It's Germain here.
There we go.
And I was
go
just
for it.
Solidarity there. California has proposed to legalize treatment centers, and the bill has failed. Democrats in the Senate Appropriations Committee opted alongside hundreds of bills, the LA Times. Senate Bill 1012, or the Regulated Psychedelic Facilitators Act, sponsored by State Senator Scott Wiener, sought to legalize treatment centers where adults, age 21 plus, could have had supervised access to psychedelic substances, including psilocybin, psilocin, DMT, MDMA, and mescaline. Wiener's attempt this year at psychedelic reforms in California was a step back from last year's decrim proposal, covering certain psychedelic plants, including mescaline-containing plants, ayahuasca, San Pedro, wachuma, and peyote, DMT, psilocybin, and psilocin, that's mushrooms. The proposal was also blocked when it was vetoed by old Gavin Newsom. Regulated Psychedelic Facilitators Act has been crafted to address concerns raised last year in the governor's veto mess. The proposal included training and licensing requirements for would-be psychedelic facilitators, provisions for a new regulatory agency in charge of overseeing the facilities, public education initiatives covering the safe use of psychedelics. What's happening here is, this is all code speak for, instead of decrim and returning these substances or giving these substances to the people in a harm-reduced manner where we can explore and share together, what they're trying to do is, the point of their ego control and the need to money is they're trying to set up more bureaucracy, more regulations, more needs for insurance and taxation, and they're trying to funnel this all into the $3,500 to $10,000 per trip modality. The number one thing about psychedelics, I got to give a shout out to Hyphae Labs, Reggie and the folks down there in Oakland, and also my friend William Padilla Brown, because not only are they amazing mushroom growers and psychedelic thought leaders and wizards, they're pointing to one of the number one issues going on with the current models that are being rolled out, which is the communities that are most impacted with PTSD and other factors who really need access to these substances are shut out when you're requiring, $3,500 to $10,000 per experience. And so I think this stuff like this, really, it falls on us when we see this. Everybody in the chat, everybody here, my fellow correspondents, actually throw out an email to your state senator, your state representative. Look for petitions to sign. Let's move towards a decrim model, because the thing about a decrim model is it keeps corporations out, and it really democratizes access. It allows access to everyone. I really like the grow, gather, gift model. Fair exchange is fair. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, why did they veto this bill? Does it say specifically?
They didn't veto it. The Appropriations Committee just basically let it die.
Got it.
Right.
Got it,
so
got
on
it.
the way to being voted, there's committees that'll kind of assess the viability of the bills. And really that comes down to lobbying and politics and having to interview each member of the Appropriations Committee to find out why they did not ask for it to be voted on.
It didn't have enough political muster to make it over the.
Well, so it didn't get vetoed. It's like a passive aggressive veto. It just died on the vine,
Yeah,
right?
it just died. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then Gavin Newsom vetoed the decrim bill because, again, number one, as we saw Newsom's moves with legalization of cannabis in California, he only panders to the corporation. And the decrim bill would basically, again, block corporations from access to making money to this. And it would only be people who could grow it themselves, share or gift or do small level exchanges that would be allowed in the program. So it'd basically be like community freedom, not letting the corporations in. That was clearly the reason why Newsom blocked it.
And so to be just as context, and for our viewers who haven't read the article, the same senator who put this up and this one withered put something up last year, and that thing last year was vetoed by Newsom. So clearly Newsom is indicating that he doesn't have the desire to see this thing go through. I don't understand why. I mean, I don't see how there's a real societal harm if there are facilities where under supervision people are taking these types of intoxicants. I'm like,
well, Newsom did not. So the bill last year had no therapeutic centers. It was all decrim. Decriminalization just means if you're not trying to create generational wealth and 10x your business and have a bunch of et cetera, then you're allowed to navigate. If you're purely trying to mine the industry for profit, you're shut out. And the reason he vetoed that was because Gavin Newsom was made an entrepreneur by a $5 million gift from the Getty family, one of the oldest industrialists on the West Coast. So that's how he bought his winery and became an entrepreneur. It was a $5 billion gift, a family that owns a good share of all of the corporations in the world.
My dad is a Democrat, and he always said the moment Newsom came up in the game in San Francisco, he said that's a billionaire's boy, and he will never be our type of blue Democrat.
Yep.
And so Gavin doesn't know what it's like to try to cover a bill. Gavin doesn't have grit. Gavin probably has never got dirt under his fingernails.
Correct.
And Gavin doesn't have the integrity to not shtup his campaign manager's wife. So
you're right on with that, and that's what he did when he was running for re-election in San Francisco. It was disgusting.
He is not my Democrat.
We can also bring this back to the cannabis industry and reflect on the pitch that was given, the vote that was made by everybody, and then the moment the vote was made, who worked to get rid of the 5-acre cap and who worked to get rid of the ban on vertical integration. That was all Gavin Newsom. So pandering to corporate interests, because those are the people who, again, made him an entrepreneur and put him in the big watch club.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just to riff real quick, I'm sorry, Jason, but on Newsom, since we're on a Newsom moment, Gavin has always had aspirations for higher office, the gravelly voice, the good hair. He's always been clearly wanting to have the biggest possible stage. And it's been very clear since he was the mayor of San Francisco that he eventually had presidential aspirations. The thing I will just say as a political pundit here on High at 9 News is that the right has had a 5-year head start on denigrating him in a way that they have only gotten that head start with Hillary Clinton, right? And what I love about Gavin Newsom is that he brings the left and the right together, the red and the blue, because he's not liked by either side of the political spectrum. He is the great unifier, and we can all become unified in our disdain for his centrist bullshit fucking non-track record. And all we have to do is look back to gay marriage, right? When you are the mayor of San Francisco, I'm not saying you have to have a rainbow bumper sticker, but he never got out in front of the issue for same-sex couples to have the same benefits. And he waited until it was a fait accompli. The horse was already in the stable, and then he came up and said, whoop-de, 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 whoop. And he did the exact same thing with regulated cannabis. He really didn't provide any benefit to either.
He was the first mayor that really spearheaded gay marriage.
No, he didn't spearhead it. The people did it, and as soon as it was already a done deal, he came in to take some credit.
I don't know if I'm buying all that, but
you got to get more gay to have the history, Jason.
Yeah, that's cute. That's cute. Brandon, do you have any sound yet? Do we have you coming in on audio? I saw you refresh. Can you talk? We still don't hear you. Okay. All right. Well, that is unfortunate. We're gonna roll right into you, Mr. Yarrow Kubrin. He is the Sebastian.
Brandon.
Yeah.
Wait, Brandon. Why don't you Brandon, read your story line for line, and then I'm gonna repeat it.
I'll do the sign language.
Ciao.
And is it rabble rabble?
Bye, Jamie.
It's not working.
I don't know, but it's not working. But are you saying that you want to read his story, Mathieu St. Germain?
I'm saying if he says it, then I'll repeat him. All right, so let's go, Brandon. Go. All right, you ready? 2 teenagers arrested.
You know what? Never mind.
Chiefs players arrested.
No. We're not doing that like this. No.
We're getting canceled.
If you want to read it, Mathieu St. Germain, you can read it.
I don't see it, brother. I'm sorry.
Here. Give me 1 second.
You guys are like scuba divers trying to buddy breathe off a single air tank. Cut that shit out and let me read my article.
Yeah, I mean, jeez, Louise.
I'm too selfish to care. I'm going right now.
Go for it.
Oh, Yarrow, go.
Yarrow.
Sorry,
go for
Brandon.
It, Yarrow, please.
All right. Good morning, High at 9 News viewers. Monday, May 20th. Thank you so much for tuning in. My article today is from Marijuana Moment. This is Yarrow Kubrin. New Jersey senators approve bill directing marijuana regulators to oversee intoxicating hemp products. There's a phenomenal amount of unregulated, unlicensed, untested cannabis products on gas station shelves, convenience store shelves, and they don't go through any regulated process. By Sophie Nieto Munoz, New Jersey Monitor. Stores that look like dispensaries are getting set up shop in towns across New Jersey, putting CBD lotion, Delta 8 gummies, and hemp products on their shelves without facing the same regulations and oversight as legal cannabis dispensaries. Now lawmakers are weighing whether those retailers should be required to get certain licensing, and if the state's Cannabis Regulatory Commission should oversee hemp products. A new bill would regulate the sale, production, and sale of intoxicating hemp products less than 5 milligram. So I'm realizing as I cover this, Jason, we covered this earlier in the show, and let me just briefly and with the most uncomfortable pivot recognize that what I'm supposed to cover is the other one in respects to the shutting down of the dispensary in Morrisville.
That's what you're supposed to be reading.
Yeah, so my apologies. I am jumping ship like a little.
Well, let's go into the one that you just read.
So let me just we touched on that one. Let me go to the Morrisville cannabis retailer.
Okay.
So we have another one. My bad. Morrisville cannabis retailer, Lamille County Cannabis and its associated cannabis gummy manufacturer operation, Lindy's Kitchen, has been shut down by the Vermont Cannabis Control Board after its owner's legal troubles severely disrupted the business, resulting in an unsanctioned change in management, an unsecured supply of drugs, and allegations of theft. At the end of March, the control board issued notices of violation and orders to cease and desist operations at the dispensary and manufacturing site on Stanford Avenue in Morrisville for attempting to change control of a licensee without prior approval of the board. This infraction stemmed from a documented attempt by Matt Lindemeyer, an owner at both the cannabis shop and gummy manufacturer, to transfer control of the operation to his wife, Kirby Lindemeyer, without approval from the state. The effort came about a month after Matt Lindemeyer was arrested for domestic violence. The notice of suspensions alleged that Lindemeyer exhibited erratic behavior both at his cannabis shop and in the broader community in the month before his arrest, and the suspension of his business license, noting both of his domestic violence arrests and the incident where he crashed his vehicle, but could not recall how the crash had occurred. These incidents and other unspecified incidents of disorder, as it was characterized by the control board's investigating agent Dennis McCarthy, prompted the Cannabis Collective, a marijuana grow operation adjoining Lindemeyer's retail store, to complain to Kent Marcus, a lawyer and minority owner of the Lindemeyer Cannabis Club and Lindy's Kitchen. Marcus, who owns the building where the Lindemeyer County Cannabis and Lindy's Kitchen operated, attempted to evict both businesses, but his ability to respond to the situation was limited as he lives outside of Vermont. As Marcus moved forward in the eviction and the control board authorized a few remaining employees to secure the operation's inventory and properly liquidate it, the Lindemeyers attempted to exert control. The board alleged that Kirby Lindemeyer threatened and harassed a few staff who remained. According to the screenshots of text furnished to the board, Kirby Lindemeyer reached out to one of the employees, claiming that Matt Lindemeyer had made her his proxy, and ceded management of the business to her. When this employee refused to comply, she told him he was fired, that he was taking food out of her children's mouths, and alleging that Marcus couldn't make any decisions without Lindemeyer's approval while she viewed what was happening at the business remotely through security cameras. Matt Lindemeyer also texted the employee affirming that his wife would be taking over the business, and when he didn't receive a reply, asked why he was crushing everything he had built and said that his kids didn't deserve whatever this is. The control board cited the communications captured in these texts as evidence that the Lindemeyers were going through an attempt to continue to operate both the Lindenwold County Cannabis and Lindy's Kitchen despite Marcus's attempted eviction and the impending cease and desist order from the control board. The control board determined the Lindemeyer was incapable of executing his regulatory responsibilities or effectively supervising or responsibly operating both businesses. The situation between Lindemeyer, Marcus, their affiliates, and the current and former staff is so volatile and uncertain that the CCB cannot determine who has actual control of the premises or who even speaks for the Lamoille County Cannabis and Lindy's Kitchen, the control board said in one notice. The board summarized that the Lamoille County Cannabis and Lindy's Kitchen were effectively unmanaged, face eviction from their premise, have no substantial staff, likely lack funds to pay staff, and are not using their approved cannabis accounts to deposit revenue and pay creditors, and consequently cannot be relied upon to secure their cannabis inventory. As part of the order to cease and desist, Matt Lindemeyer was barred from the Stanford Avenue operation without prior approval of the control board. Lindemeyer and Marcus are both also responsible for paying $10,000 fine through a pre-hearing conference was scheduled to allow the two parties to attempt to appeal the decision or negotiate a different penalty. And as wrap-up, Lindemeyer and his legal representative, Marcus, did not return requests for comment. There is allegations of theft, because domestic violence and losing your shit is not enough. During McCarthy's investigation, aggrieved creditors showed up at the dispensary seeking remand for a bounced check for $5,000. Following McCarthy's initial investigation, Lindemeyer or someone acting on his behalf had withdrawn all the funds from the business's respective accounts, leaving no funds to pay employees, so they're screwing their staff, according to the control board, leaving Marcus to work out an arrangement to pay unpaid employees. Holland Cannabis, not to be confused with Jamie Pearson's New Holland Cannabis, a cultivator based in the Northeast Kingdom town of Holland, also reached out to the control board after the Marson cannabis business was shut down and alleged that they were owed the cannabis grower over $31,000 as a result of alleged stolen product bounce checks and unpaid invoices. So let me finish this off. Now, the Lindenwold County Cannabis leaves a much more crowded market than it found, with 3 other retail shops in Morrisville, including one that also manufactures gummies. Before the suspension of his license and his uncertain future as a cannabis entrepreneur and alleged wife beater, Lindemeyer had also made himself the public face of legalized retail cannabis in Morrison, eager to be among the first to open a cannabis shop in town. Cannabis was one of my passions, he had said. I want to give back to the community is something I'm passionate about. All right, there's a lot to unpack here. I apologize for rereading the first article. It's a third cup of coffee morning, but I would like to hear what my fellow guests and panelists think about this massive, multifaceted implosion by these operators over there. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to thank Willie Sheets. For
sounds like a scary, weird vibe, bro. Like,
right?
You'll notice every cannabis club you go into, every store you go into, it's like its own universe, and it really, from whoever is running that thing on down, the culture and the vibe is delineated. And you'll go into some that are like the Death Star. Mm-hmm. You'll go into some that are like your cousin's house and the most fun you've ever had.
Well,
it just sounds like one of those.
Actually, the most fun I ever had was at your cousin's house.
No. Yeah, this just sounds like one of those where the people running this thing are just overly involved in a lot of things they need to bring through and getting a lot of chaos.
Well, hold on. You're going to love
Brandon,
this.
what do you think?
Matthew, Brandon, can you talk? No? All I see is smiles.
In case his audio isn't working.
Yeah.
Brandon said, sounds like a bad guy who has a license and it trickled down. What do you know? That's for our viewers in case we're having any audio issues. So here's what I would say. I got 2 columns. Here's the FU column. The FU column is the domestic abuse.
Yeah.
The FU column is the not paying employees. The FU column is not paying vendors. Here's where I'm going to be their codependent, okay? If I was having significant psychological breakdown issues and I proxied to my wife to run a business, I don't know that management so much as that's operations. I don't know if it's community property state, but I think if somebody sees themselves losing who they are. All of a sudden, they're crashing their car, they're beating their wife, they run their business. Like, this guy is clearly not who he may have been before, and he's trying to give control of the business to somebody he knows and trusts so that the business doesn't have to suffer through his continued implosion. It's troubling to me that would be a disciplinary action for the control. The other that I thought was challenging is it said the control board in the revocation, the cease and desist hadn't been received yet. The eviction is not final. Any landlord can go through an eviction proceeding. It doesn't mean that they're going to be successful in that. And it seems like the control board was attempting to frame this as something that already happened and therefore a supporting reason for why they were doing what they were doing. And there's a due process with an eviction, and that didn't have an opportunity to play out in the.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what. I want to thank Willie Sheets for sending this in with Vermont Alternative in the chat. And he says the aggravated creditor Holland Cannabis.
I mean, I can proxy for Jason.
Had two
We're not going to lose control of
20
this. That's where we are.
That resulted in their weed being pulled from the market. I don't think you guys must
Dana.
Can't hear me.
I like Dana. Trump's okay. Trump's okay.
Jay, you get
Yarrow,
those
stop.
Trump Snickers? He truly does. I was trying to get him. I was trying to score. He was amazed that they actually went down in value since they were really sold.
Oh yeah, I bet
like
those
time as much now. I was like, no, but they're.
I bet they appreciated like the shit on the bottom of my sneaker.
Ooh.
All right, you got
Jason's panicking now, trying to get back on the. Yeah.
No, I think we are just tasing him in absentia, and he's like, "I'm never coming back again."
Let's go to the close.
Hey, where are you? Oh no! So there's another story I saw. Psilocybin, mushrooms, full spectrum psilocybin mushroom have been shown to be more effective than single molecule psilocybin or psilocin for depression, PTSD, and other mental, I don't take this for. We're starting to see with mushrooms already. The things we're doing, which is that